On the agenda as amended? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Quorum plus one, it's a beautiful thing. We'll move right on to declarations of pecuniary interest and to general nature thereof. Any councillors with the declarations of pecuniary interest today? Seeing none, we'll move forward into presentations. We have two presentations this evening. The first is Dr. Dave Williams of Southlake Regional Health Centre, and it's an update on Southlake Regional Health Centre. And Dr. Williams, please come to the podium. You have 5 minutes, sir. 10 minutes. Oh, even better.
Well, thanks very much.
And I apologize for the wait.
A brief little moment there when I heard it was 5 minutes, but I'd like to thank Council for having myself, and we also have Joanne Ryder, who's the Interim Director of Corporate Communications at Southlake, who's here with me as well. We wanted to give Council an update on where things currently stand at Southlake, and let me see if I can make the magic work and go to the next slide. That doesn't seem to be working. Now, there we go. We pride ourselves in being a community hospital that has 8 regional programs, and the hospital has grown significantly over the past now 5.5 to 6 years that I've been CEO of the hospital. Despite our excellence in providing world-class care close to home, navigating the healthcare system, particularly from a community perspective, can be a challenge, and we know that. It's currently part of our strategic plan to work very closely with the LHIN and the CCAC to be able to address those issues. From a provincial perspective, there are a number of things that confront Southlake and the other hospitals, both in our LHIN and the province. A number of these center around the patient's first agenda, changes in the economic support for healthcare, the drivers in the system, a desire to be able to strengthen the relationships between hospitals and community care, and certainly transformation of the system to be able to meet the needs of an aging community. When we look at where we're going as an organization, Southlake is strongly committed to putting patients first in that lower right-hand corner, the goal of being able to provide service excellence in what we call the ultimate patient experience, or delivering those shockingly excellent experiences to patients in our community. Interestingly enough, the growth in this LHIN, as I think all of you are aware as councillors, has been significant. And when I came to Southlake in 2011, we were seeing about 60 to 70,000 patients in the emergency department a year. Now we're up to 110,000 patients per year. So we need to anticipate the resources that we need in the community to be able to provide the type of healthcare we want for residents in the future. This is our 1516 vital sign infographic, and the emergency department visits are in the lower left-hand corner, but you can see we're a very vigorous 408-bed hospital, and in fact we're funded for 380 beds, but we operate 408 beds, and typically we're over capacity, so you'll see often that we have 420 or more patients in the institution at any given point in time. Very proud of the overall team of roughly 4,500 people, including the volunteers, and our volunteers give more than 120,000 hours per year, over 1 million hours over the past decade, so it's really a remarkable organization. You may have heard of the alternate level of care patients that reside in hospitals throughout Ontario. This is a challenge not just for Southlake, but for hospitals throughout the province, and we're working very closely with our LHIN and the CCAC to find solutions. But the longest ALC patient has been at Southlake for more than 407 days. And I would argue when you've been in a hospital for more than 365 days, essentially you're now living in a hospital. And of course this is really not the ideal place for the individuals to be able to live. So we're working this issue very carefully, making sure that we have the appropriate resources to deliver acute care, but we're working to try and solve this problem with the LHIN. In terms of our performance, and you can look through the numbers, we've done a recent engagement survey of all the catchment area for Southlake, and broadly speaking, the quality of service ranked as either very good or excellent is 60% of people in our immediate catchment area feel that way, 35% of individuals in our secondary catchment area feel that way, and Aurora, of course, is in our primary catchment area, but we reach out and provide care to people throughout the Central LHIN. In fact, we provide regional cardiac care to residents of the North Simcoe Muskoka LHIN, and we're very proud to be able to do that. Our wait times are generally good, so in that wait time area, less is better, and in terms of our wait times for emergency care, we're amongst the best in the province. These are some of the things that people say about Southlake from our Environic survey. We're very proud of the reputation that we enjoy in the community, and broadly speaking, either people know about us or they don't, and if they don't know about us, it's an opportunity for us to be able to share the story. And I wanted to share with you a video, and hopefully when I press on this magic button in the center, it'll play. But it's a video summarizing our commitment at Southlake. Maybe I'll let you navigate the video for me. There we go. Likes your mouse better than my mouse. And maybe if we could bring the sound up, that'd be great.
I see. Want me to rewind it?
It's pretty quick, so yeah, sure.
For the moments that make you hold your breath, and the moments that take your breath away, we're here for you.
Excellent. Now I think if I just click there, that can bring me back.
Now, Dr. Williams, will you need more than 10 minutes? Because I'm sure a counselor would be happy to move an extension if you would take a little bit longer than 10. I'm not sure.
No, I think we should be able to wrap it up as soon as we get over back to the presentation again.
Okay.
Apologize for the delay. But the video, what we're hoping to share with you is that for those moments that you need our care, we are there for you in the community. And those moments can vary. It depends on whether you're giving birth, it's a moment of happiness, or whether you're dealing with a challenge like a new diagnosis of cancer. We're there for you in those times. And that's something that we believe very strongly in. Thanks very much. Our current strategic plan takes us until 2018, and we'll be putting in place a new strategic plan to be able to move forward. But the last time we engaged the community in our strategic planning process, these are the things that we heard about. A commitment to excellent care. Everybody wants excellent acute care for our community. They want exceptional patient experiences, better information flow, enhanced patient support. You can read down the list. And that's been our goal over the past 5 years. I would submit that many of the things on this list we're still working on, and you'll see them resurface in our strategic planning process going forward. We're very proud of our culture, the Southlake Way, which is the way in which we work and interact with ourselves and team members and patients and families on a day-to-day basis. It's a culture that's committed to innovation and embracing opportunities to change while making sure that we deliver on safety and quality. Our vision, of course, is to deliver shockingly excellent experiences, and we're very proud of the safety and quality results that we've been able to achieve. And the key element of our mission is working together in collaboration. So that's with other healthcare partners, it's with the LHIN, the CCAC, and arguably with communities to be able to deliver our experiences. These are the core values that define the culture of the Southlake Way, and we believe that they are tied and linked to quality outcomes. We've won a number of awards over the past 5 years. Many of these are national awards, but some of the communications awards are actually North American awards, and we're very proud of the achievements of the institution over the past 5 years and looking forward with even more excitement to the next 5 years and the next decade to come. So I'll just finish on this last slide, our ultimate patient experience, our relentless commitment to building that. Thank you very much for enabling us to give you a bit of an update. I apologize for the back and forth with the slides, but more than happy to entertain any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Williams, for coming out. Excuse me, and it's us to apologize for the lack of quorum for so long. We had to keep you waiting a little bit, but we do appreciate you coming out. So first, Council, I'll have someone move a motion to receive the presentation, moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Marakis. And then I'll go to questions for the delegate. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for coming this evening. You know, certainly, I think we all share the same opinion that we're very fortunate to have such a jewel as Southlake here in our community. But I know from my own personal experience, I think you have some outstanding staff at the hospital, and truly my interactions, I've always been amazed at the quality and the compassion of the staff at the hospital. So I think that that always needs to be reinforced.
Thank you very much for saying that. I'll be sure we pass that along to our staff. We, of course, agree with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Mayor Daw?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Dave, for coming out and visiting us. We do appreciate it. You mentioned briefly in your presentation ALC, and I wonder if you could just give us, I've got some familiarity with it, but for the rest of Council and those who may be watching in the audience, just a quick definition of ALC and why it's becoming an issue for the hospital.
ALC stands for alternate level of care. These patients are actually discharged from the hospital, but they do not leave the hospital. And that's an interesting situation to be in. They're discharged from the hospital because they no longer require acute care. They're still in the hospital because there's no destination for them to go to in the community. And the challenge for all of us in Ontario, this is not just a York Region challenge, throughout the whole province, the challenge is to figure out how we can transition these individuals to the community and make sure that we're providing the appropriate community destination for these individuals. We're working very closely with the LHIN. We're hoping that there'll be some solutions to this challenge coming up in the future. But as I pointed out in the presentation, when you have individuals in a hospital essentially living there for more than a year, this is an issue that we need to get our minds around, because in reality, hospitals are places where we deliver acute care, which means short-term stays.
Mayor Daw?
Thank you very much. And I had the opportunity to do a tour a couple of weeks ago before the board meeting, and we took a trip through one of the ALC areas at the hospital, which is the auditorium, which has been turned into an area for those patients. And, you know, Lord bless the people who are there helping those folks, but goodness gracious, we need to find a much better way to treat residents like that who need that kind of specialized care. So thank you very much. Lastly, I just would like to offer my congratulations on the part of our council in the town of Aurora. We know that you're retiring. I was pretty sure that was not allowed, but we do thank you for everything you've done for the hospital, and I think for the heightened awareness of Southlake and some of the great changes you've made there. So thank you very much.
Very, very kind compliment. I'll be the first to say I could not have done what we did at Southlake over the past 5 years alone. It's a team effort. We have a remarkable team dedicated to providing world-class care close to home, and we're so thrilled to be able to do that for the residents of Aurora, Newmarket, and the other catchment area for Southlake. So thanks very much for having me tonight. Thank you.
Dr. Williams, we have a couple more questions from some
Oh,
councillors.
certainly,
So we
no
have
problem.
Councillor Humphreys.
I thought I'd used my full 10 minutes.
No, we got lots of time. So we have Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Peary, and Councillor Abel. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again. Echo the compliments around the table. We're just so blessed to have such an incredible hospital here at our, close to home, and we value that incredibly. One question in terms of, you spoke about the strategic plan. From your involvement before you, I know congratulations on your retirement. I think well deserved. You've really taken our hospital to such levels of incredible service. But in terms of the aging population, we really do have a national issue, obviously, across Canada. How can we impact through our strategic plan, the province and the federal government, to help us a little bit? Because I like others, have been in the situation where we have aging parents, and I just want to say one quick thing. The hospital and CACC have done an incredible job helping our family to beyond levels of expectation. So although there is that burden on the hospital, it doesn't really show from a patient care perspective. So I just wanted to, first of all, thank you for that. But knowing the pressures that they're at the hospital, how do we think our strategic plan might help get some?
That's a great question. And I think one of the challenges we all face is resource allocation. There are a number of things that we can do today that don't require significant resources. So the first thing is developing a plan, and that's something that we can all do, particularly if we have parents that are aging, making sure that before there's a crisis, we actually have a plan in place with dialogue through primary care physicians. The second slide I showed was this big spaghetti diagram of navigating, and I think one of the things that we can do from a system perspective is make that slide a little bit easier to understand and make the pathways simpler. So we're working very closely with CCAC and the LHIN to be able to do that. There are opportunities for resource allocation, both for long-term care and also for community-based care for ALC patients. So there are proposals that are in between the LHIN and the ministry, and I think getting the support from municipal council for those initiatives is something that will be very important for the future. My pleasure.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Pirie?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Dave, you know, as we spoke, 10 years ago, you guys did save my father's life. Forever grateful for that. However, the slides that you were showing tonight demonstrate that you guys had a 60% rating of was it? Excellent or very good for residents in your catchment area, and 35% for people who fall outside of our catchment area. To me, those numbers seem a little bit low. Are those numbers that you're satisfied with, and what are you doing to improve them?
There's no, we're not satisfied with them at all. Part of it is we want to understand what the numbers mean. Is it just simply people are not aware of South Lake? So for instance, we have 8 regional programs, but everybody only knows of 2 regional programs, the cancer program and the cardiac program. And even internal to South Lake, sometimes people think that we only have 2 regionals, but in fact we have 8. So getting the message out is a critical element. When you look at the secondary catchment area and the numbers as low as 30%, we want to understand, is this we're not hitting the mark in terms of safety and quality outcomes? Because when we look at our data, we are, but we want to understand what that number means and be able to build the brand and share the communications message in both primary and secondary catchment areas.
Councillor Pirie?
Sounds great. The only comment, the numbers seem low to me. I want to temper what I'm wanting to say, but you know, there are times that you don't hear great things about the hospital. So I just want to make sure that you're receptive to hearing those things, and you're aware that those comments are made, and you're working to improve it. So thank you.
Just a quick comment on that, if I might. So one of our core values is speak up. That's for all staff members at South Lake. It's for all patients and families as well. We want to hear. If we're not hitting the target, we want to know about it. If we are, that's great, but we actually learn more where there's opportunities to improve, and we're quite sincere about that. So right now, if anybody sends in any feedback and it makes it to my office, I respond in writing to every particular item of feedback. We have a patient engagement group that works with patients and families to figure out how we can improve, where we need to improve, and what we're doing well. But this is something that it's a relentless journey, right? We need to continually be on that journey of providing the best possible experience to all of the patients that we take care of and their family members as well. So any feedback is welcome, and I'd welcome other opportunities to engage within Aurora with the community to be able to build our brand and share lessons learned.
Councillor Abel next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for joining us and enlightening us. One of the ideas that we have in Aurora, and I'm sure, is assembling some industry and technology to support not like a satellite sort of campus. We didn't get a university, so we weren't able to put a medical center in there, but I do remember seeing you when you first came on explain the future of robotics. And so I would think that that would be something that we would concentrate on. And if I don't want to get into too much detail, but do you talk to municipalities like Aurora about economic growth? Do we have that dialogue? And secondly, do you have just a couple of ideas where we might be going?
This is a huge opportunity for dialogue. Would love to have a dialogue with economic development in Aurora about this. I was asked by Minister Matthews to chair the Ontario Health Innovation Council. All the recommendations of the council were implemented, including hiring a chief health innovation strategist for the province and the allocation of $20 million to do pre-market evaluation of new technologies. And South Lake has just received $15 million from the federal government, matched by about $17.4 million through industrial partnerships, to an organization called Create It Now to develop these types of devices we're talking about within our community. Not so much surgical robotics, because the cost of a minimum viable product in surgical robotics, 50 to 100 million. What we're focusing on more is the IT, body-worn sensor area, where we can develop applications that'll make a difference for patients and providers to optimize care delivery in the community. Love to come back and share with you our vision, what's going on, or even better, would be more than happy to entertain a group coming up and having a tour of our facility called Create It Now.
Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to take any more time because we're going to be busy, but perhaps our CAO will take those notes and we can get our economic development team to perhaps pay a visit and then start strategizing with you on best first steps forward.
I would say that well, right now we're ranked as the most innovative hospital in Ontario. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Councillor Kim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Williams, or Dr. Williams, for presenting, and congratulations on a great 5 years. What would you say is the biggest success in your 5 years, and what would be the biggest challenge that the next CEO needs to take on?
I think the biggest success for us in the past 5 years, this biggest single success is building a strong financial platform for the organization. Right now, we are the most cost-effective hospital in the province of Ontario with a total budget of more than $250 million. And that stability of a strong financial platform enables us to do things that others might not have the option of being able to do were it not for that strong base. In addition to that, we built a strong team, and our safety and quality numbers, I would rank them against any of the best teaching hospitals anywhere. So going forward, the challenge for the next CEO is really to be able to look at the resource availability relative to the population growth. And when I say resource availability, it's the total package. It's not just budget or anything like that. What I am concerned about is Southlake in 2025 has to have a certain capacity to meet the needs of the community in 2025. What's it going to look like in 2030? And we've done decadal plans, so a decadal plan is 10-year forward-looking plan in the area of capital equipment. I think the next CEO, we should be doing a decadal plan looking at resource allocation and availability to meet the needs of what the community will look like in 2025 to 2030.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. And just one comment that in the last 5 years, I've been to the hospital a couple of times, unfortunately, and your gig is up. I know what code blue means. I think that needs to change. I think every hospital uses code blue, maybe green. Anyways, and last question, what do you plan on doing on retirement?
I look at this as a transition to the next chapter, and I'm hoping to travel a lot more. I am currently writing, so you may have noticed I have 2 kids' books that are out and 2 more in work. I've got an adult book with Simon & Schuster we're working on, and a TV show that we're working on as well, and all this is in my spare time right now, which I really don't have a whole lot of. So I think, it'll be a continuation of the journey, but I will always feel very, very proud to be part of Southlake, and I'm certainly around and more than happy to help out in any way I can.
Thank you very much. I have Mayor Daw for a second time.
I'll just be very quick, Mr. Chair. To Councillor Perry's point about improving, I'm also on the board committee on quality at the hospital, and they start every meeting, every BCQ meeting and every board meeting is started with a patient story, and the patient story is used as an opportunity to see how we can do better. So it's constantly in front of the board. So we do take that very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. And thank you very much, Dr. Williams, for coming out. And I want to say again, on a personal note, my daughter was born in September at Southlake, and the service was excellent, the care was excellent. Everything from when we pulled up to the hospital to when we were driving our daughter home was excellent. So we really appreciate that on a personal note. So thank you very much for coming out again. Okay, I'll call the vote then. All those in favor of receipt of the presentation? Opposed? That carries. So we'll move on to our second presentation for this evening. That is Ms. Lori Mueller and Aaron Hamilton of Sport Aurora, and that's regarding the Sport Plan Progress and Status Report. And ladies, you have 10 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mayor Daw, members of council, staff, and guests. My name is Lori Mueller, and I'm the Executive Director of Sport Aurora. I'm here tonight representing the Board of Sport Aurora and our 41-member organizations in order to provide you with a partial summary of our work on the sport plan that was contracted to us in April of last year. With me is my colleague, Aaron Hamilton, who has been contracted by us to help facilitate the work needed, and she will be presenting after my introduction. After executing the contract in summer of 2016, the board and staff have been very busy doing not only what we typically do and what our president, Stephen Kimmerer, reported in December, but we focused considerable effort on the sport plan year one deliverables. We polled our entire membership and formed committees from leaders who wanted to bring their interest and skill forward. I'm happy to report that we've not only completed or near completion of all year one deliverables, but have moved forward with additional deliverables that were identified in year two. Sport Aurora is proud of our partnership with the town, and we look forward to helping deliver year two and beyond. In your packages, you will have a complete account of the work we have done, but allow our presentation to point out a few more important features of our work. I introduce Erin Hamilton, who will present the details of that work.
Thank you, Laurie, and good evening. Thank you for having us here. From here, I'm going to transition into looking at sort of the priority recommendations within the sport plan that was developed within the town of Aurora. And so the 4 priorities being sport leadership, sport access, promotions and celebration of sport, and sport tourism. This evening, we're going to focus in particular on sport leadership, sport access, and promotion and celebration of sport as being the key elements within year one deliverables of the sport plan. So what I'm going to touch on this evening are the tasks that we've completed within each of those areas, what our next steps are, and the timelines associated with them to complete them between now and the end of March. So within sport leadership, some of the tasks that have been completed to this point is the creation, and Laurie touched on it briefly, of the sport plan subcommittee. In which we reached out to the membership within Sport Aurora and asked people to join us, and a series of meetings took place with the Sport Plan Subcommittee to talk about each of the 4 priority areas within the sport plan. Further to that, we've also done some research related to the development of the Aurora Sport Policy. And so we collected and did research related to initiatives that are happening and policies related to sport at the municipal, provincial, and national level across Canada, looking at best practices that have taken place and some things that would relate to what's happening within Aurora in sport. Further to that, in regards to another recommendation under sport leadership was the initial recommendation to hire a sport development officer. And Town of Aurora did contract Sport Aurora to address the sport plan, and within there, Laurie's working on a number of responsibilities. I myself, as the implementation manager, was hired on contract, and we also have a research coordinator that's working with us on a number of deliverables. Each of us has responsibilities that we're overseeing related to the implementation of the sport plan within year one. Related to sport leadership and what we have coming up next, related to the Aurora Sport Policy, we're taking the recommendations that were developed by Sport Aurora, and we'll be presenting them tomorrow evening at the AGM for Sport Aurora. So they were distributed out to the membership to look at that prior to coming back to Town of Aurora with some recommendations related to an Aurora Sport Policy. In regards to the Sport Development Officer, we've evaluated the staff needs for year 2 and 3 to meet the deliverables related to the sport plan. And so we would move forward on those based on approval of the Town of Aurora if they make a decision to contract Sport Aurora on the deliverables related to year 1 and year 2. So that's the first area, first recommended priority area. As we transition into the second one being sport access, some of the completed tasks that we've achieved over the last 8 months related to physical literacy training. So there was a summit that took place in May last year, where we had representatives from the sector, sport, recreation, education come together. We had some keynote speakers and an opportunity for them to split off into different groups and actually participate in some physical literacy training. Drew Mitchell has been in town and is a leader within the Canadian Sport for Life, and he's been conducting and facilitating a number of training sessions for us related to execution of Activate Aurora initiatives, for example. And then we've had over 65 people trained through the various initiatives within physical literacy over the last 8 months. Regarding meeting of agencies to support persons with a disability, we've recruited members to be part of that committee, and our first committee meeting is actually scheduled for Thursday, where we'll be bringing those individuals together. We've also done some initial research regarding the inclusion of persons with a disability within sport, best practices, other resources and allocations within other municipalities related to access for persons with a disability. We'll be incorporating that into the meeting and future recommendations that we bring back to the town of Aurora. And finally, in regards to developing a recreation and sport access policy, we've identified individuals to be invited to a committee to participate and develop recommendations that we can bring forward to the town of Aurora. So how we're moving forward on sport access over the next month and a half. We continue and have ongoing training of teachers and parents as it relates to physical literacy, as we recognize the importance of teachers in the education system, working with children on a regular basis through phys ed, outside of phys ed, getting them active whenever we have an opportunity to do so and the benefits associated with it, as well as educating parents, which is a really important aspect of getting support from parents. As mentioned earlier, we have a meeting scheduled on Thursday, and from there we'll establish some initial recommendations and identify any need for further meetings with that committee to build off of what we learn from the group sitting around the table on Thursday. And then regarding the development of the recreation and sport access policy, we'll be sending out an invitation within the next week for those committee members to come to a meeting which will be hosted in March. Where we will hear from them and talk to them about how we provide access to individuals within Aurora as it relates to sport and recreation. So I'm going to pass it back over to Lori. She's going to touch on the completed tasks and next steps related to promotion and celebration of sport.
So the completed task under this is the development of broad-based sports marketing strategy. Sport Aurora staff has met with the town communications coordinator to communicate recommendations for our needs, and that's an ongoing discussion, more to come in March. A communication strategy is in its early stages and being executed and implemented. We did have a sport expo, and that was hosted at our Activate Aurora launch. That was back in September. We've met with the Aurora Chamber of Commerce to discuss partnership opportunities. And I'd like to add to this slide that Sport Aurora has also executed an outreach program to include organizations such as external organizations such as churches, school boards, both public and separate school boards, and we're working quite closely with them. In relation to the recommendation on developing a broad-based sports marketing strategy, the next steps would be, in line is research options for a sport app. We're doing some research on some applications, research marketing initiatives in other municipalities, additional meetings with Town of Aurora Communications Coordinator to develop ideas for cooperative efforts. We are planning a sports summit between May and September of 2017, and established to consult marketing advisors from public, not-for-profit, and private sectors. And all these timelines will happen within the rest of this month and all of next month.
And to wrap up our presentation, sport tourism being the fourth priority recommendation within the sport plan, did not have any deliverables within year one, but we did want to recognize that through a series of meetings that's happened with the sport plan subcommittee, some initial recommendations have come forward from that sport plan subcommittee, which we've taken into consideration and will move with us as we transition into year two of the sport plan to look at those recommendations, evaluate them further, again, look at some best practices that happen across other municipalities within Ontario and Canada as it relates to sport tourism. But we did want to just sort of make note of that, even though we haven't transitioned into year two, and Lori did mention in her introduction that there is some work happening related to year two deliverables. So I'm going to pass it over to Lori to make some final comments.
Sport Aurora thanks you for the trust you've placed in our hands to help build a strong foundation for sport in our community. We look forward to helping you make this community a healthy place to live, work, and play. Aaron and I will be able to answer any questions that you have, and we thank you for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you very much. And I'll first get a motion to receive the presentation, moved by Councillor Peary, seconded by Mayor Daw, and I'll open it up to questions or comments from Council. Starting with Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you so much for your presentation. You have done a tremendous job, and it's just such a, we're celebrating the success of how much, our community is engaging actively, and you've really paved the way to have all types of engagement. And everyone can participate. So I love the thought process moving forward. I hear that you're meeting this week coming up. I guess it's agencies that you've, that allow help for. If you could just elaborate a little bit more on that, because one of the things I sit on the accessibility committee in town. Now, we're not an agency. We're just making sure that things come through town, are AODA compliant as best as possible, and just wondering if there's a part that we can help play, or if a member from our committee, maybe not now, but later, because there's always interest that way. But just wanted, if you could elaborate a little bit more about that piece. And
so with the meeting that's happening on Thursday, we have a number of agencies, and to name a few, so Special Olympics Ontario, the Aurora chapter, Autism Ontario in terms of the York Region chapter. We have representatives from the York Region District School Board. We have representation from the town of Aurora, as well as Tyler Barker, who is the chair of the Accessibility Advisory Committee, will be sitting around the table. And we've also invited Vicki Keith, who has established longtime success program in Kingston, YMCA, related to persons with a disability. She's going to come in and share some of the best practices that she's learned over the past 20 years of running the program, some challenges they've had, how they've been successful, so that we can take that away as we talk about the barriers within our meeting, the opportunities that we have going forward. So that sort of gives you a sort of overview of who we have sitting around the table. So there will be about 12 of us at the meeting on Thursday. So we'll talk about barriers, we'll talk about challenges, we'll talk about current programs that exist within Aurora, what's successful, what resources are allocated to make those successful, what challenges they've had, where are the gaps within programming, are some of the areas that will focus our meeting on Thursday.
Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Wonderful, thank you. Now, Tyler did mention, I wasn't sure if he was going to this first meeting, so that's fantastic. Great news, thank you for including everyone, and as many as possible. And I know that lots of wonderful things will come out of that, and really be an amazing, inclusive program. So thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Thompson.
Laurie, Aaron, thank you very much for coming this evening and giving us an update on where we stand with the sports plan. Just one question. You talked about a sports summit being planned sometime this year. Who will be attending the summit? And if there are parties out there that are interested, could they contact you? Maybe perhaps a little more information about it?
The sports summit that's being held, he's sitting right behind me. Activate Aurora is having a sports summit on May the 4th. And yes, they can contact me. The organizations that are attending are, I believe the summit has to do with older, we don't know yet? The details are still actually being finalized. We know that it's in May. That is a deliverable. The details are being finalized, but they will reach out to different service groups in order to attend that one. So we'll send out an invitation to save the date very shortly. And once the details are ironed out, the town will be notified.
Councillor Thompson.
I look forward to getting some more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Seeing no other councillors with comments or questions, I appreciate you ladies coming out, and I'll get a vote to receive the presentation. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thanks again. Okay, we will move now to the delegations for this evening. We have two, and we'll begin with the first delegation, which is Jimmy Brennan of Aurora FC, Aurora Youth Soccer Club, and this is regarding item R6. Mr. Brennan. And just to let you know, you have 5 minutes for your delegation, so thank you very
5
much
minutes?
for coming.
I'll probably only need 2.
Okay.
Good to see everybody. First of all, I just want to say thank you for hearing me out here. Last year, we came in at looking at the possibility of having a facility over at Shepherd's Bush to kind of facilitate our needs with dressing rooms, showers, etc. Obviously, that didn't come to fruition, so we started thinking of other ways that we could possibly work with the town and what would make it better for the soccer community. There was a proposal for a multi-use field to go at Stuart Burnett, and then once that field was built, then over at Shepherd's Bush, because of the wear and tear, that was going to get revamped. Now, we looked at it and thought, you know what, we have a world-class facility here in Aurora that hosts right now a beautiful baseball diamond, tennis courts that are in there now. There's swimming pool, hockey rinks, and we thought, you know what, everything that we're looking for is right here. And we thought, wouldn't it be great if we could actually move the soccer field from Shepherd's Bush, put it over at Stuart Burnett, and then take the multi-use field and move that over to Shepherd's Bush. So we're here kind of requesting, that you guys kind of get on board with us and help us out a little bit to facilitate our needs in the soccer community and building a soccer-specific field over at Stuart Burnett. Now, this would be great as well for teams that are coming in from Ottawa, Windsor, London, and especially for our semi-pro team that we have in town, because they get to see this wonderful facility that we have here in Aurora, and like I said, this would be an ideal situation for us and for the soccer community.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Brennan. First, I'll get a motion to receive and refer to the R6, moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Marakis, and we'll open it up to questions from Council. And we'll begin with Councillor Marakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Jimmy. Jimmy, thank you for coming. I know when you discussed this with me a long time ago, actually it was quite a while ago, and we had these conversations. I think it's a great idea to look at moving this over. I hope that we can make this happen at Council this evening and ratify it next week. I think it's a great addition to the SARC, and considering we've added the Sports Hall of Fame there, I think it's just a unique place to have so many people coming in and visiting this town and seeing what this town can have for them. Hopefully this will get passed tonight, and thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Councillor Marakis. Mayor Daw?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jimmy, for coming out. We don't have a lot of, from a town facility perspective, we don't have a lot of single-use baseball diamonds being a pretty good exception to that rule. Are there other other uses that we could find for the field that would integrate fairly well? I mean, I can understand what your desire is, and I certainly applaud you for coming forward.
Field lacrosse, they could use the facility. It would accommodate them. Rugby, other sports of that nature, I think, because they could also share that field. I mean, it wouldn't have the American football lines for the Bucks, but for the other sports that are in town, absolutely. And then it also, they'll be able to use the facility with the dressing rooms. You've got 12 dressing rooms there, the showers, everything that you need for the outdoor sports. And it's like I said before, I think we had 52 fields in town and not one dressing room. So this would actually accommodate those in need.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Seeing no other comments or questions from Council, I appreciate you guys coming out tonight and delegating, and I'll call the vote for receipt and referral to item R6. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thanks very much for coming out. Okay, we'll move right along to the second delegation for this evening, which is Mr. Ron Weiss from Activate Aurora and Javed Khan of the Aurora Chamber of Commerce. And this is regarding a notice of motion from Mayor Daw regarding Activate Aurora, the Open Streets event. And I see Javed is still sitting, but Ron is up, so we'll go with Ron. So, okay. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Good evening, Chairman Tom, Mayor Daw, Council, staff, and guests. My name is Ron Weiss. I'm the chair of Activate Aurora and the Activate Aurora Steering Committee. I come here representing that organization in support of a motion being made tonight by Mayor Daw regarding open streets. The concept of an open street was brought to the attention of the Mayor's Task Force on Physical Activity about a year ago by the Associate Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Gould, who suggested that this may be an interesting way to bring activity to the attention of the community and promote healthy physical activity for our residents. Open streets merely means opening streets to pedestrian traffic while promoting healthy lifestyles. This isn't a new concept, and we've done our research and found many examples of how open streets work effectively in many different sizes of communities around the globe. I have many online resources that I can give you for information that I can share if you'd like. This concept was described and presented to the steering committee of Activate Aurora, who endorsed it and tasked me to come to the town as well as the Chamber of Commerce to explore the feasibility. The town was selected because of the obvious issue of closing streets to vehicular traffic, as well as the potential interest in bringing people into the cultural precinct. The Chamber of Commerce was tasked to me also because it was felt that the best time to launch this project would be when the largest open street event in town was already underway this year, that being the Aurora Street Festival, scheduled for June 4th. I've met with various town officials here to do some fact-finding about the feasibility of opening streets to pedestrians, and I thank the Mayor for bringing the motion forward for your consideration and discussion tonight. I recognize that this is not a trivial matter, as it involves change to residents' lifestyles, particularly with respect to parking and vehicular traffic on that single day. I do, however, feel that the collective benefits to the town, residents, and guests are significant. I will point out that I live in the cultural precinct, and it's no problem for me. I have my friend and colleague Javed Khan here from the Chamber to provide his input on behalf of the Chamber, with whom I met last week. I ask that after your consideration of the details, this motion is approved so we can launch our first open street event designed to help make us a more active and vibrant community. I ask Mr. Javed Khan to come forward now.
Mayor Daw, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, we meet again. My name is Javed Khan, Chair of the Board of Directors for the Aurora Chamber of Commerce. As I've stated many times before, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce is a volunteer-driven, non-for-profit organization whose mission is to not only represent over 600 business members, we also lead and serve the over 1,400 or so Aurora business community. Our goal is to and continues to build and drive and positively influence Aurora's economic landscape. The Aurora Chamber Street Festival is York Region's largest community event for the past 21 years that attracts over 30,000 visitors to the downtown core. This incredible event opens Yonge Street, transforming it into the largest pedestrian walkway running from Wellington Street to Murray Drive. Along the walkway, people can visit more than 500 vendors, listen to live music, sample delicious food, and cool down with refreshing drinks and desserts. We were pleased to have Ron Weiss visit one of our Board of Director meetings to speak on the Open Streets initiative. After Ron's presentation, answering of questions and brief conversation, it was evident, ladies and gentlemen, the opportunity to collaborate with Open Streets was a natural fit. Sandra Watson, our events manager, commented that Open Streets is a welcomed addition to the Aurora Chamber Street Festival and felt it would draw more people to the Street Festival and therefore have an impact on the overall attendance, which would drive more traffic to the vendors. Ladies and gentlemen, the vote was unanimous. Therefore, the Aurora Chamber of Commerce is in favor of supporting and collaborating with Open Streets and look forward to the new addition to the Aurora Chamber Street Festival.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Weiss and Mr. Khan, for coming out. And I'll ask for a motion to receive and refer this to, this is to the motion for next week. So we can do that. We can move it to refer it to next week. Okay. A motion from Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Are there any comments or questions for the delegates? Doesn't look like there is any. Now, we will be discussing this next week at Council, so tune in for that discussion. And thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming out. All those in favor? Sorry? Oh, sorry, Councillor Abel. I missed it. We haven't missed. It's not too late. Okay. All those in favor of refer? All those opposed? Carries. Sorry, John. Okay, so that closes out delegations for this evening. We'll move to the consent agenda. Bear with me for a second here. So, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kim. Comments or questions on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We'll move now to the consideration of items requiring separate discussion, and I believe Mayor Daw would like to make a motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. May I suggest that we move items, well, I was going to say R6 forward, but that doesn't seem to be as much of an issue. So may I suggest that we move items R4 and R5 forward? There's members of the audience here for those specific items, then go back to R1 to 1 through for the rest.
Is there a seconder for that? Moving R4 and R5 to the beginning. I have Councillor Gartner seconding. Any comments or questions to that? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So then we'll begin with item R4. Can I get someone to move, put that on the floor? Councillor Humphreys, seconded by Mayor Daw. Speakers? Mayor Daw?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just from the suggestion that we heard a bit earlier at open forum on page 3 of the item, the paragraph titled Trail Linkages, where the last sentence states Metrolinx has stated that they have no intention of including any pedestrian crossings unless the town incurs the cost. I would like, and we can leave this between now and next week, but I would appreciate if perhaps the CAO could take its direction to come back with another recommendation that says that, you know, the town wishes Metrolinx to participate in the cost of underground passages or whatever the appropriate wording would be. So I'll put that on the floor as an amendment, Mr. Chair.
Seconded by Councillor Humphreys. So can we just clarify, just for...
I'm good.
You're good?
Yep.
Councillor Pirie, on the amendment?
So speaking to the amendment, I don't think it makes sense that we're all going to have comments, I think, tonight about this. So just maybe if we were to make an amendment, that all of our comments be included, I think that makes more sense.
Is that agreeable to the mover and seconder? Is that friendly? Okay. Okay. Thank you, Councillor Pirie. Is there any more speakers to the amendment? Seeing none. Oh.
Clerk, what's the best way to handle this?
Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if the mover and seconder agree, we can have a friendly amendment to this. Correct. So the amendment would be to have all comments be taken into consideration.
Is everyone clear on that amendment? Then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Back to the main motion as amended. I had, Mayor Daw, you had the floor. Are you finished? That was it? Okay. I'll move to Councillor Thompson and then to Councillor Gartner. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a really question around financial implications. I know the report says none because it's really just commenting on an expansion project, but with regards to the proposed grade separation on Wellington Street East, I'd like to get some confirmation from staff with regards to whether the cost will be borne completely by Metrolinx or whether there's an expectation that the town also shares in some of those costs. So I'm not sure who best to direct that to, whether it be Mr. Ramuno or Mr. Nadarozny.
Who would like to tackle this question from staff or from Councillor Thompson? Councillor or Mr. Ramuno?
Okay. Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. My understanding is that is part of a separate environmental assessment, and Metrolinx will be bearing the cost of those grade separations. But I mean, it's a good question. It's something that we can certainly clarify, but that's my understanding.
Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, and I appreciate us putting some comment in there with regards to costs. And the reason why I raised the issue is I saw some similar reports from other municipalities in York Region that spoke to the fact that Metrolinx would share those costs with other municipalities based upon whether or not the community benefits or not. There was some quoting in other reports talking about that under certain legislation, they have to take on 85% of the costs unless is deemed to be mutually beneficial, in which case it's 50% of the costs. And so I think there needs to be some comments in this report back clarifying what the costs are, who's paying for it, and what the expectation is.
Is that just a comment?
That's the comment.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Move to Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll have more comments on this next week when I receive some more comments from residents. But one of the things that was discussed at Cardinal Carter when they had the open house a few months ago was the impact on residents' property who live along the rail line. And I'm not talking about cost implications. I'm talking about privacy, noise, actually the tracks coming closer in some cases to residents' property, so therefore privacy is really important. Just putting it on the table for council to think about, and I'll bring more comments forward next week.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. I have Councillor Maracas next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention that we spoke about this at length at the Trails Committee this past week, and a lot of the thoughts of the committee members was that we would like to get more information as far as all the different underpasses that are being considered, for them to be able to go out and actually visit them, look at them, get those packages and see what are the cost implications going to be, which ones do we want to put as priorities, and then go to Metrolinx and then kind of fight them and say, hey, we want you to pony up and give us a little bit of money. And so the committee wants to get that opportunity to get all that information. So I would suggest, I'm not sure what we want to do here, but I think that it would be prudent on us to wait to hear what the committee has to say once they get all that information and what recommendation they make to us. So I just want to throw that out there to everyone. And as far as the Wellington Street East one, there was conversations that that the committee would prefer possibly an overpass on that one, because obviously an underpass would just be an incredible amount of money. And so that was kind of some of the discussion. But once again, the committee definitely wants to get a longer look at it before they make their final recommendations to council.
Thank you, Councillor Maracas. I have Councillor Abel next.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This is a huge undertaking. It's going to have a tremendous impact on our residents, especially the ones living close by. But already we have huge volume and traffic congestion in this area, and with construction going on, acquisition and putting in second lines affecting residents north and south. I can think of the Valhalla Extra, all those neighbors that live there, and going down. It says at the very end of this report on page 4 that in partnership Metrolinx is conducting parking utilization study. And so there's nothing mentioned about creating vacant parking spaces by bringing in public transit or for the last mile. And that's been identified at the region in their transportation study. I've had meetings with them, and it's not anywhere in this report. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to see that somewhere. That's a comment that I'd like to make. This is something in the way of the future that's been identified in other municipalities where Metrolinx is working, and for some reason it's omitted in ours. So there's going to be tremendous impacts on our community. We should have something coming back and understanding the long-term implications of the construction that'll be going on, and for that, I think there should be something allotted for our towns, such as the other councillors have spoken of the grade separation. One we've identified at Cousins and through our trail committee comes to mind right off the bat. So there's a couple of things there, and I think the basic what wraps up is the communications. Significant. I think they could be better. So our staff have written under communications consideration, there is a need for Metrolinx to improve their communications and public education. So that is paramount, because we are saying while you're in construction, like we did with the region, and then we're widening Leslie Street, while you're doing that, we could save a lot of money by putting in for our trails underpasses for our pedestrians and our trails. And we're suggesting the same thing here with Metrolinx, and they're just saying we have no intent on that. So I think that kind of approach has to change. They're going to come in, we're going to be under tremendous construction, and they're going to be putting trains in every day, frequently, and they know they have a parking problem. They say they're going to fix it, but I think it takes several fronts on how we're going to approach this. So the region has expressed an interest in being involved. Metrolinx says in other municipalities they'll address it, and I think one of the best ways to address it is public transit and alleviating that congestion, prioritizing it. So we should have definitely a plan that we want to bring that forward as well. So there's a lot. I know this is overall our overarching, and this is a bit better communication than we had last year at this time, but we still got a long ways to go if they're coming into our town and turning it upside down.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. I have Councillor Peary for the first time, so I'll go to him first and then to Councillor Gardner. Councillor Peary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to either Marco or Mr. Naderosny, what is the plan for construction and the disruption that the construction would entail? Do we have anything? Have we thought about this? I'm thinking specifically at Wellington, but what are the plans? How is this going to be addressed?
Mr. Amuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. Those plans haven't been finalized with respect to the grade separation. We've been requested to provide formal comments in relation to the environmental assessment that they're nearing completion on the electrification component. That is, as part of the their project, they're looking at converting the diesel trains to electric. There will be a request for formal comments when they get to that stage and they finalize their environmental assessment process on the twinning or the adding the tracks, work on the stations, and the grade separations that will be required. And one that they've identified is the Wellington Street. So that is probably a few years off. So once we see the environmental assessment report, Council will have another opportunity to provide comments at that stage, but we have made those comments here at a staff level that we do have some concerns about the impact a grade separation in that location would have on our community, considering we've got our heritage conservation district and the impact on those neighboring properties. But it's probably a few years away before there's actual construction around the grade separation at Wellington Street, if that, in fact, that happens.
Councillor Peary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sure we'd all agree that the grade separated crossings, if done improperly, could cause havoc to our community. So I appreciate the fact that it's on our staff's radar, and they will continue to advocate on behalf of our residents to ensure that this is built in the most responsible manner possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peary. I have Councillor Gardner for a second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to either Mr. Rumino or Mr. Naderosny. This is being called, Metrolinx is seeking comments on the draft environmental project report. So the comments that we're sending in have to do with traffic and financing and parking. So how does this fit in with the draft environmental project?
Mr. Amuno?
Mr. Amuno, thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The comments are sort of all-encompassing. They relate to more than just the electrification component of the project. Again, we've included comments with respect to the future pedestrian crossings and et cetera. But I thought it was prudent at this stage, seeing that they're seeking formal comments, that we put this report in front of Council. This is an opportunity to ensure that all our comments are sent or forwarded to Metrolinx. And again, we will have a couple of other opportunities moving forward when the EA is completed for the corridor improvements, which is adding the additional tracks component of the the project and the grade separations and the new stations and all the work that goes along with that.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I'm trying to read this correctly. So what were there, it says Metrolinx is seeking comments, and you just said they're formal comments on the draft environmental protection report or project report. But we don't have those. We don't have that report before council. We don't know what's in it. So how can we send in formal comments on behalf of council if we don't know, if we don't see that report and know what's in it? Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Ramuno.
Mr. Ramuno.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, that's true. I mean, we don't have the, we would have the environmental assessment report and all the background information and comments that have been received to date. We can make that available to council, but really it is, it really relates to the electrification component of the project, right? Adding that, that infrastructure. But again, before that happens, my understanding is, the additional tracks will have to be constructed as well, but they're further advanced with this component of the project, which is strictly the electrification of the corridor.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I don't know very much about electrification, except it's supposed to be quieter, but I have no idea what the environmental repercussions would be. So are you able to give us a summary of that for next week so that we could speak to it?
Mr. Ramuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair, we can put some information together and forward that to council before next week.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. And another topic on page 3, with respect to what Councillor Abel said about parking, it said that by 2030, it's a lot of years from now, there's going to be an extra 1,000 additional spots. Do you know when this project is going to be completed, or at least for the Aurora area? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, but I think this is all part of their, their big move plan the goal is within 10 years.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I would just say that this council has heard so many complaints about parking issues, and we're all very concerned about that this would be the time where we really got serious about trying to get Metrolinx to address some of these issues. There's the comment about above-ground parking structures. I know they've bought a property recently. I don't believe they're putting in an above-ground parking structure, but I think pretty much the province can do whatever it wants. I think Metrolinx probably can do whatever it wants. But as a council, I think we have a responsibility to be very forceful on the parking issue, because it's really going to affect our residents. It's already really affecting them now with a second track and 15-minute turnarounds, or 15-minute, I'm not sure how to say that properly, but a lot more traffic, rail traffic. It's a pretty scary thought. I think we need to send in some very, very strong comments.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Maracas, for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just be real quick. I just wanted to correct when I mentioned about the overpass on Wellington Street East. I wasn't speaking to the grade separation at the GO station. I was speaking to where the connection of the Tim Jones Trail is from one side to the other, and that's what the committee was speaking about, and saying that that would be a preferred overpass instead of an underpass. So I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that's what I was speaking to.
Thank you for the clarification, Councillor Maracas. I have Councillor Humphreys for the first time. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to add to some of these comments, I didn't notice on the report, it does say that, in conclusion, that staff has requested regular meetings with Metrolinx to review and provide various studies and anticipated work. What I was wondering is if staff can set those meetings up and have them regularly scheduled and have some type of action log on all our concerns and comments. What studies have been provided, maybe the studies embedded in that document, so it's made available to us and to anyone who wants to see it. That will really encompass all these concerns. So there's just one sort of repository of information. Because this is huge. It's as I'm hearing all the comments, and this is going to be big, and we need to do it right. And this is our opportunity to try to do it as best as possible. So, we heard all the concerns tonight, and if we can get those meetings set up with Metrolinx and our staff, I think we'll have a lot better relationship with them, and articulating our concerns would be really important. And I think Councillor Abel mentioned there's plans to do some work on Leslie and work here and there that maybe we can piggyback on some of those while we're increasing the rail services. So maybe a good opportunity to do that. And if we can get an update on that for the next meeting, if Metrolinx does want to meet with us and when, would really be appreciated.
Would you like an answer on that, or?
I'd love to know if that can happen.
Mr. Nadarozny?
Through you, Mr. Chair, two fronts. I can answer that on two fronts. One, we're meeting almost monthly with Metrolinx on a conference call with various groups to talk about all the various projects that are underway, and they're doing things like a parking study to feed the other studies that they're going to be, the environmental assessments they'll be doing. So they're doing a fair amount of work in the background as well, and they're keeping us updated. With respect to Metrolinx coming directly to council, we've been trying to arrange this since December, and we now have a tentative date in March for Metrolinx to come to council and present. So you'll get an update right from them in March.
Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's fantastic, and I think the conference calls are an absolutely good start. But if there's a place where if someone's almost managing the whole thing from our perspective, and there's just that documentation that includes all that information, it'll just help everyone know that they're documented, they're in a place, and Metrolinx can refer to it. Almost we take control of that and send it their way, and they can add to that document. Just a thought. I just feel like there's so many things to think about here, and there's probably some great work we can do before it gets done and going. So that can happen in the meantime. That'd be great.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. I'll move to Councillor Kim the first time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one comment regarding the grade separation and / underpasses, overpasses. Regardless of how much short-term to mid-term pain we have to endure, I don't see how we can have 15-minute GO transit without the grade separation. Otherwise, the traffic long-term would have to stop every 15 minutes, and I don't think that would be bearable or a great solution. The one question I would have is regarding, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Ramuno. Even though this is a very preliminary stage, I'm wondering whether, when do you think Metrolinx would be able to provide us some high-level timelines in terms of milestones and an approximate date of completion?
Mr. Ramuno?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. I mean, we're hoping when they do present to council that they will be able to share some of that information with us, and we'll do our best in our additional information that we provide to council next week, if we can provide some timelines within that memo.
Councillor Kim? Thank you. I have Councillor Abel next for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the comments. The missing link here for me also is the region. I think the region should be accumulating all the municipalities and what their concerns are, so that they are part of this ongoing process. So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering, could you explain to us, through you, Mr. Chair, how that is being accomplished, or is it?
Mr. Ramuno, do you have any information on what the region's doing?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. That's happening. The region has a number of representatives that are meeting with the Metrolinx staff, and also providing comments on the various projects, because again, they're cross-boundary. So that is occurring.
Councillor Abel.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I know that transportation, and I did mention it before. So some of the metrics, and I think it's important to know, how many riders are they expecting? If they're going to produce 3 tracks and expropriate land, they must have some idea of how many people are going to be coming. So if we're presently doing 3,000 people and our parking is at this stage, they're going to increase it by 1,000. But if they're bringing in 40,000 more riders, does that make sense? So I think it's kind of important that we know that. And if we do know that, then perhaps then the region knows their role is to alleviate some of that parking, saying, okay, well, the parking will only accommodate 70% of them. That means the region's transportation should be looking into ways to providing, getting the commuters to the station and back. So I think those things are valuable so that we can see now at this stage as we plan what the roles are, and it certainly helps us understand what the challenges are, and certainly for our residents. You know, and I feel bad for some of our residents, because I remember when I first moved here 22 years ago, I asked about properties along the tracks, and they were saying 3 GO trains in the morning, 3 at night. And so, like, there's no freights, there's nothing going on. Now, we didn't realize that the growth of the town, but if I bought then and realized now that I'd be having trains going by every 15 minutes, it would be a huge difference in my property value and such. So we have to kind of understand everything going forward in 10 years, so that we can put input in, comment, and work satisfactory to go through with this whole process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Are there any more comments from committee? Seeing none, I'll call the vote on the item as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We'll move on to item R5. May I have someone put that on the floor? Moved by Mayor Dawes, our seconder. Seconded by Councillor Peary. Who would like to begin on this one? Any comments or questions? Councillor Gartner, just in time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I had asked Mr. Amuno, I cannot see how the proposed subdivision fits into the diagram on page 12. It's the urban residential one it's a pointed, very narrow pointed piece of property, and the subdivision proposed plan doesn't seem to me to look like that at all. So, through Mr. Chair, to Mr. Amuno.
Mr. Amuno, could you elaborate on how it fits in?
Certainly. Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess the best figure to look at is the location map. So which shows the existing roads and and lots that have been approved, and house construction is underway in this phase. That entire area where you do see the roads and the subject lands, which we refer to as the finger development, where they're proposing the 11 townhomes, is all within the urban residential 1 designation.
Excuse me, Mr. Amuno, what page are you looking at? Sorry?
It would be page 11 of 16.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that finger, the proposed site plan that's before council this evening, with these 11 townhome lots, 9 townhomes, 2 semis, is within that finger, which is tableland, and it's designated urban residential, along with the existing plan of subdivision. But again, it will be serviced off of Scrivener Drive, and it will be a private road that extends into that little finger pocket of developable land.
Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. That finger that you're talking about, it looks to me from page 12 that it's going into the environmental protection area.
Mr. Amuno.
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair. The mapping on page 12 is our official plan overlay mapping. Again, Councillor Gardner, you're correct. Based on the scale of mapping, it looks like there's it is surrounded by environmental protection area, which is protected, but the area that is being developed, that little sort of pointed triangular portion, has a residential designation, and the development will occur only within that residential designation, and it is not encroaching into the environmental area. Again, there's always a bit of a discrepancy with the official plan mapping at a broader scale, which was prepared back in 2009. Since that time, when the subdivision and the original zoning was approved, environmental impact studies were prepared to further delineate that developable area. But again, the tableland has been staked, and the development is only occurring within the developable area and not within the environmental protection area.
And I think, Councillor Gardner, on page 14, there's a rendering that has the EP area around it. Is that correct, Mr. Ramuno?
That's correct. Yeah, that's probably a better, the proposed site plan, page 14 out of 16, is the actual development plan. So, and you can pick out the slopes. All those townhomes will have rear lots slopes into the because of the lay of the land and the valley land down in the valley.
Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. For clarification, are you saying that the legend that we have for OPA 73, are you saying that what we have in the official plan has been modified into a different shape because of something?
Mr. Ramuno?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it hasn't been modified, but if you look at the, I've got a schedule of the OP here at this scale. That finger is clearly is there as residential lands, and it is surrounded by what we've identified as environmental protection. So that tableland was always identified as future development when we brought the subdivision forward. So it hasn't, it hasn't been modified. The road pattern was modified when when council approved the plan of subdivision 4 or 5 years ago. There was only one road access through into that subdivision. The original secondary plan had 2 access points, but the developable limits, really haven't been modified. There were refinements to demonstrate the actual development limits within the plan of subdivision. But again, there is no encroachment within the actual environmental protection areas, because that plan of subdivision was approved and registered, and those environmental protection blocks were dedicated and conveyed to the municipality when the plan was registered 3-4 years ago.
Councillor Gardner?
I could go back and forth. I'm going to ask you to send me an email, or us an email, and that diagram you have in front of you. What I see, what we have in our report, is a pointed piece of land that says it's UR1. And I have the delineation for the subject lands as a finger. So what I'm trying to find out is that spiky piece of land that looks like the top of a mountain and comes to a definite point, is that the only land that is going to be built on by the developer, or is it going to encroach into the surrounding land that says it's EP? That's my question, and if you could provide me an answer in email, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. I have Mayor Daw next.
Mr. Chair, it's been answered. There's no development on the EP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through you, Mr. Ramuno, I'll follow up during the week just to be sure. this land is tableland that was always meant to develop, but the site was never prepared for us to approve. The majority of it was done, and they put services in place for whatever it is they decided to eventually put there. Would that be fair comment?
Mr. Muno, do you have a comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. That's correct. We always knew when council approved the subdivision and the zoning was in place for the townhomes on this finger, and the services were brought to the frontage. The report before council is really to approve the site plan, the lotting, and they will have to construct a private road into that finger area.
Councillor Abel.
Chair. So when you say a private road, it'll be like some of the other condominiums that are around where we will provide services to the front of that road. They're, like I see it in other developments, townhouses and developments and condos, they will bring their garbage to the road there, and they will have their own contractors plow out their roads.
Mr. Muno?
On the road into the development.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Any more comments on this item, committee? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So now we're moving back to R1, I believe, correct? Okay. Item R1. Let me just see here. So we need direction on item 1, right? So it's already there. Okay. Is there anyone willing to move this? Moved by Mayor Daw. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Kim. And I have Mayor Daw speaking first.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And I'll also turn to Mr. Downey to make sure that I'm not misrepresenting. As you know, there was a lot of discussion when the Canada 150 Committee was originally put together in terms of funding, and we had a bit of a circular argument as to whether or not we should have the committee before we had funding organized. And council, we brought that up at budget. Council did put in a placeholder for the budget for this year, dependent on what, if anything, came through in the way of grants from the provincial and federal governments. We have not had a meeting of the Canada 150 Committee yet because we were waiting, quite frankly, for information on grants. So the grants have recently been released. We received a grant of $20,000, and that's a targeted grant for the powwow, for the Aboriginal powwow. And so it can't be used for anything else. It must be used for that feature. So what we're looking at, and on page R3, you will see the proposed budget, which is in the recommendation. Of $87,000. So I just wanted to point out one of the things that's in here, and there's some wording specifically around the military tattoo. So what we met with actually with Shelley Ware, Laura Shearden today. We had a quick conversation, and then we brought Ken White from the Legion on the line as well to see what we may be able to work out with the Legion. In that paragraph under the military tattoo, and this is where I'll ask Mr. Downey to jump in if I'm making any mistakes, we had originally looked at May because in May it was originally proposed that the ice in both ACC1 and ACC2 would be out. I found out this afternoon, and Shelley found out and advised me that actually it's only the ice in ACC1 will be out. That's the one with the seats, and that's where you would want to hold an event. Last time the tattoo also used ACC2 as the staging area. So it does look like we could use ACC2 if we were to put boards down, so that the ice doesn't have to come out, because that in itself is a rather expensive venture. So what that means is we're not necessarily limited to the May time frame. We did have a discussion that we would like to do that before the end of June, because we also, similar to what we had last time with the military tattoo, we had the mutter first, if you remember that, held in conjunction with the Queen's York Rangers. and their cadet corps. So what we looked at perhaps was changing it up a bit, having the military tattoo or something like that first, perhaps not a full-blown tattoo, and then launching into something afterwards that could be associated with, say, Sport Aurora. So we had a bit of a discussion on that. So that's just about what we're looking at in terms of that military tattoo or that day that would be. I'll go to Mr. Downey just in case I've missed anything in that. But so with the rest of it, we're looking at the Canada 150 naming, park naming and water feature, and then the family first night fireworks. So like I say, we haven't had a meeting with the committee because we've been waiting for the release of the funding. We've just found that out. We'll be taking that to the committee, which is meeting next Wednesday or Thursday, the 2nd. The 1st. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So I'm happy to hear the comments or any other questions that committee may have.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Mr. Downey, do you have anything to add to what Mayor Daw said, or did he encapsulate it all?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And no, the mayor actually did an excellent job at raising all the issues. The only thing I would like to add, however, is that this is a timing issue, and we are looking to get as much time into the preparation of this event as possible. We can't make a commitment that it's actually going to happen because we are fairly late in the planning process. So we have put a statement in there that we're going to make our best efforts. However, if we do find that we have not got sufficient time to plan the event, we'll certainly come back to council and notify council of those results. But that's the reason it's here, is we are looking to try to get as much lead time for the planning of this event as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Downey. I have Councillor Abel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So maybe through you, I could ask the mayor. There is an upcoming 150th planning, committee meeting for the 150, March 2nd and March 1st. And the previous one was it September 2016? It's been months, what I mean. So is that committee still active?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Councillor Abel?
And I was wondering, and it was Councillor Kim that brought it up, who's not here, but I had the same idea about putting banners on our streets to celebrate 150. Is that a consideration at this time? And also I had a thought that I shared was that we have the Aurora letters, much like they do in Toronto. Toronto added a nice big red maple leaf, the same size as the letters, to kind of signify this is a year of the 150th for all the events that we're doing. I thought that might be something that we could add. So through you, Mr. Chair, would I ask Mr. Downey about that?
Mr. Downey, do you have any comment on what counts?
To you, Mr. Chair, with regards to the red maple leaf, yeah, I've seen what Toronto did, and it is something that I've asked Shelley Ware to look into. The same people who produced our letters, perhaps they can give us a cost for producing the maple leaf. With regards to banners, we have Parks and Recreation and Culture Department hasn't moved forward any of those. I'm not quite sure whether it's going to fall within IES or within the Parks and Recreation and Cultural Department, but as far as I know, there's been no movement on whether or not we can or can't, and what those banners might look like.
Councillor Abel.
Would I be better to put in a notice of motion to ask for something like that, or it doesn't seem too daunting to me to make some banners and have them hung, so I don't know how to respond to the comment.
Mr. CAO?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll look into that. I know it's part of another conversation with banners down Yonge Street towards the St. Andrews property. Someone suggested some of those banners could be also 150 celebration-oriented banners, so we'll look at the whole issue and come back. We don't need direction.
Councillor Abel?
Because when we did the 2013, we encouraged every event, every organization to say, and we lent our branding to say, this is Aurora's 150th. And I thought, we might take the same sort of approach for Canada's 150th, the year of 150th, and we have, we have all kinds of events going on that our staff do an excellent job at. So, this is a year to do it. So I just thought if we're having fireworks on Canada Day, this is going to be a grand fireworks establishment for Canada's 150th. So Canada Day's 150th celebration, I would encourage that we do that with the street festival, with hockey games, tournaments, everything should be along those lines. Some sort of, we are known as Canada Day Celebration. I think we're known as I read in Jacqueline Stewart's. It's a brand we have here.
Canada's birthday town.
Canada's birthday town. Thank you, Councillor Tom. So, I mean, why wouldn't we be working towards doing something like that? It would give our community a bit of pride in what was going on.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. I have Councillor Thompson, Gardner, Maracus, Humphreys, Peary. Councillor Michael Thompson.
Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, it says on page 2 that in the beginning we approved 4 events, a military tattoo, a powwow, a special legacy feature, and a family first night fireworks display. I assume then that the special legacy feature is the Canada 150 Park naming and water feature?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not aware of what their legacy project is. I'm sorry, but I don't sit on the committee. Perhaps Dan can answer that better than I can. Okay.
Mr. Elliott?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is my understanding, is that the legacy project that was previously identified has been now narrowed to park naming and a water feature.
Michael Thompson?
Thank you. Overall, I'm certainly supportive of moving forward and providing a budget confirmation for the Canada 150th group. I guess my only concern is I look at, the amount of funds that we were given by the federal government. $20,000 is nice. I guess personally I would have hoped for something greater. And so in looking at the budget, I think to myself, well, the legacy project, the 150th park naming and water feature, to me, I think the legacy feature that we're all working towards at this point is Library Square and or the cultural precinct. We've all talked about having a water feature. We've talked about having an open space. I think I'd rather see that come out of this particular budget and us continue to work in the development of a legacy project that way. It may not get built and completed in 2017, but I think that's more of a legacy project than a particular park. It's certainly, I think you can make many ties historically to the beginning of town, and I think it's a more appropriate legacy project. And so I'm curious to hear the other comments of members of council, but I guess my initial thought is yes, move forward with approving a budget, but I'd like to take that $25,000 out of the overall budget and then focus more on the legacy project being part of our greater discussions around Library Square.
Is that an amendment or just a comment at this
Not at this point. I may be the only person that feels that way. I'll let others in council share their thoughts, and if so, I'll put forward the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I have Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. That's exactly what I was going to suggest. I appreciate Councillor Thompson mentioning it. I think it would be a perfect place to have it in our proposed new town square, and there is going to be a water feature there as well. So if Councillor Thompson makes a motion that to take it out of this budget, I would certainly second that. A comment on the Family First Night firework display. It is the last day of the year, which could be fitting, but it also is the last day of the year. But sometimes the weather is just terrible in the winter, and I don't know if we do get a very bad night. I don't know how many people are going to be outside watching the fireworks. So I wouldn't mind adding some extra fireworks to our Canada Day evening. Lots of red color in the sky. Very, very pleased to see that at least we got the money for the powwow, and that State Farm is going to be helping with the youth fair. I think it's State Farm actually in Rotary With respect to the military tattoo, I don't know, maybe we could incorporate that somehow into the Canada Day parade. If it sounds like the ACC proposal is going to be quite difficult, that would just be my suggestion. We might want to put that into the Canada Day parade.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. I have Councillor Maracus next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Councillor Thompson for bringing that up in regards to the Legacy project. I think that's great, and I think all of us, I'm not sure that we would find anyone at this table that wouldn't agree with that. As far as some of the other items, I personally believe that I think that we could take some of the events that we already currently are having during the year and maybe just kind of expand on them and promote them more, and within the Canada 150 theme. And I know that the committee, I went and sat in on a couple of them, and some of their thoughts were possibly doing a mural within the town hall, and I thought that was a really good idea, that could also be incorporated into a legacy type project. I look around this council chambers and I could envision a mural wrapped right around here, and it's something that would be here forever. And so, my personal thought would be that would be better use of some of the funds. And it's something that would be here forever and a lasting impression to the future generations of Aurora. So I just wanted to throw that out there as comments, but I definitely agree as far as the aspect of the Legacy project, and I think that that's something that we could work towards within Town Square.
Thank you, Councillor Maracus. I have Councillor Humphreys next, then Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Overall, just really pleased to see that the committee's done a hard job of trying to find savings where possible, getting to $20,000 grant. Not easy when every single municipality across Canada is asking for money. So pleased to hear that. And I know I was kind of tough at the beginning of all this, and I was saying, we're not going to do any of this, or we don't get all the money for everything. However, it sounds like we have some really cool ideas to reduce the overall budget and still pull through a really amazing year of celebrations. One of the things I wanted to mention, and thank you, yes, Councillor Thompson, for looking at the one area for park naming and water future. But on the other hand, here's an excellent opportunity for a sponsorship or an auction of park naming. And if there's any way we can do a town auction to name a park for your 150th Canada's birthday, and would any businesses or families want to auction to buy a park and name it after their family for the 150th anniversary? And if we can manage that or not, I don't know how realistic that is or if something we want to do, but we can have proceeds to cover this event, and any extra proceeds, we need to think about, if we have that amount of money, what do we want to do, and do we want to contribute somewhere where it's needy in the community, or whatever. It's just something to think about. Do we want to set limits to it? I think it's a great idea. I know that people would really love that. And I know we have lots of new parks coming up there, and if there's a fundraising we want to do for the hospital or anything else, here's our chance to do it. I think lots of families would love to, or businesses. Just a thought for staff to think about when you're looking at that piece, and it comes back to our Library Square, which I think is important to have there. The second thing is, talked about this a couple of months back, and I actually met with Mr. Narowski about the bridge over the coming into town, that there's an opportunity to put some sort of welcome sign. Now, there is a huge expenditure for a permanent sign, and I don't think we'll want to go there, but there may be an opportunity for, how they have wraps, and they wrap cars, and they wrap things, and you can have a beautiful graphic design coming in. I know the cost is minimal compared to putting a big signage in digital, but you can get something like this. And if we can get approval from CN Rail or whoever looks after the train area and get that beautiful design, and maybe it ties in with Councillor Maracus' idea where they want to do a mural, maybe we get a bunch of artists and you do a rendition and you get it wrapped and work with someone who does these things. And I've seen everything wrapped, from fridges to cars to desks to anything. It's pretty incredible. There's a cost for sure. needs to be investigated, but here's something we can do when you come into the community, and I think that'd be kind of a fun thing to have for celebrations. So anyway, just two ideas, but I think in one of them, there's a way that we can hopefully maybe make some sponsorship opportunities to offset some of these costs, and if there's extra, we can donate to the family's local choice of community. I don't know. I may be going too far with the idea, but just an idea. But anyways, overall, great stuff, and looking forward to this coming to fruition and some great work being done now that we hopefully have a budget approved. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. I have Councillor Peary and Councillor Kim for the first time, and then I have Councillor Abel and Gardner for the second. So I'll go to Councillor Peary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a couple analogies in my head. Not sure if any of them are applicable or not, or if it's just in my head. Getting married, if I found out that I was only willing to contribute less than a fifth of the costs for a wedding, and I was expecting somebody else to hold a wedding for me, I think people would question my wanting to get married. Ultimately, this is an event for Canada's 150th, and they're prepared to donate to us and give us $20,000. We are looking ourselves to go over and above more than 4 times the amount of money that Canada, the federal government, is looking to support us in going. This was my issue with this from the beginning. We put our hopes out for a big grant. We didn't get it, and now we're going to be left holding the bill for somebody else's birthday. If that's what council's will and want is, then so be it. I have absolutely no issue with holding the powwow, and doing a little bit extra I think makes sense. But when we're looking at $25,000 for a park naming and a water feature, if you look back to '67 on Canada's centennial, our arena is not called the Centennial Arena. Right? If you look around and some communities were, and that's fine, but ours wasn't, but we got funding to do that from the federal government. So for us to go out and spend money to name something Canada's sesquicentennial park when we're funding it ourselves, I'm not sure it goes beyond a return on investment. I just don't know why we would be doing that. So I am on board with Councillor Thompson's feelings that he'd like to not move forward with that. I think I got an inkling from Councillor Gardner that she's concerned about moving forward on the military tattoo in the form that it's envisioned currently and spending $40,000 for that. The marketing that we've recently put in, that's going to be going towards setup and cleanup. In addition to marketing, I'm not sure that needs to be done. I'm not sure that we can't find those. Those are just the 3 items that I'd be willing to. The issue with holding the military tattoo on Canada Day, I recognize it completely. Most people are booked up by this point already. So for Councillor Gardner's comments, I would be in favor with that. I just don't think it would be feasible for us to move forward in that direction and know what the outcomes would be, or not know that would be an outcome. So I would be prepared at this point to remove the military tattoo, Canada's 150th, the water feature, as well as the marketing budget that we've allocated for this currently. So to remove that from our budget, I'll make that amendment. If we want to vote on each of those 3 things separately, I think that makes sense. But again, we set up this budget without knowing what we were going to get from the federal government. We didn't get as much as we'd hoped to get, and for me, I don't see the need to celebrate somebody's birthday with more vigor and more fever than they're willing to celebrate it themselves. So,
is there a seconder for that amendment? Can you repeat your amendment, Councillor Perry?
Certainly. It's to remove the military tattoo, the Canada 150 park naming and water feature, as well as the Canada 150 marketing from the planned events.
Is there a seconder?
And if we're going to vote on those separately, it gives everyone an opportunity.
Seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Kim. So speaking to the amendment, I have Councillors Abel, Gardner, Councillor Abel.
Speaking to the amendment. The military tattoo goes inside the ACC. It would, I think the capacity is 3,500 inside there. I think if we're going to put it in the most money, the town would at least benefit from it. It really just speaks to a very small part of our population. The reason we didn't get funding from the government is because when we presented the ideas as to what we were going to do, they chose the ones they would fund. It was pretty clear in the grant application. I would suggest that other municipalities got more for some of their ideas. The marketing and cleanup was kind of struck me as a different sort of thing. I don't know if that came out of committee. But the bottom line is I think I would at least allow the courtesy to go our comments and refer it back to the 150 committee. Is sort of where I'm going. But the military tattoo, I agree with Councillor Perry's idea or comment that it's way too late to be booking anything on Canada Day Parade. So I would let the 150 committee that's meeting next week take our comments and then bring it back for the next cycle.
Okay, I guess the amendment now is to take them off the budget altogether. So I have, now just to be clear, the order got a little screwed up on the screen. So I had Councillor Gardner and I have Mayor Daw next. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to the amendment? Councillor Thompson? All right, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. I'm not opposed to the military tattoo. I think it's the military has been a very important part of our history. And I would like to see it honored somehow, and I appreciate that the committee put it in. And I appreciate all of the suggestions from the committee. I think that they all mean something special. It's just how we can work them into our celebrations. So I would like to see, if we take the military tattoo off, I would like to see honoring the military somehow into the celebrations. I like the idea of taking the park off, but I would like the committee to know that we really like the idea. We just want to put it off and put it to an important, we think is going to be an important square in the town of Aurora. Not that we're ignoring their idea or don't like it. I am back to the Family First Night fireworks display. I would appreciate if that could be called separately as well, because seriously, if we get bad weather, it could just be a waste of $12,000. And I would like to see somehow more importance put on our Canada Day fireworks with respect to celebrating this event.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Just to be clear, so the three items that you called, Councillor Perry, is the military tattoo, Canada 150 marketing, and the Family First fireworks, is that correct?
No.
No, so what are the three you mentioned?
The
Oh, they're on the screen.
The park.
Oh, right, and so he called what you wanted to take off. Okay. Now I get it. Okay, thank you, Councillor Gardner. Are you finished?
She wants the fireworks part.
Oh, you want the fireworks added?
Yes, please.
What's the quickest way to
Or
get
at least have some of that money transferred to our Canada Day celebrations as opposed to having it as a separate event on the last night of the year when the weather may not be conducive.
Perhaps we can deal with the amendment on the floor, and then if
Okay.
we want to change that, we can go do it after.
Thank
So I'll go to Mayor Daw, then Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a very frustrating discussion because, and I totally appreciate Councillor Perry's point. I don't support the amendment, but I totally appreciate his point because I agreed with him when this came up the first time. And we sat here and discussed as to whether or not we should actually put together a committee before we had any funding. But council wanted to go ahead with the committee. We did. The committee has worked. They've come up with good suggestions. We've had staff input on this. We've applied for funding. And now we're going back and telling the committee, well, thanks, but we don't really care what you came up with because we're not going to do it. I find that offensive, quite frankly. The issue, for instance, of whether or not we would have fireworks on New Year's Eve, well, it happens in a lot of places, and we did discuss the issue of weather, and our special events coordinator was pretty confident that regardless of the weather, people would come out and watch it. And by the way, I remember a multicultural event that I can't remember if it was the spring or the fall, where the rain was driving in from the side. And I remember Canada Days where it rained like crazy. So you can't control the weather. You can only control your attitude. I want to point out the concept of military tattoo. We were probably, and perhaps I didn't explain this well enough, but we were thinking of it probably not a full-blown tattoo because I don't think we can actually put it together in time. Although, quite frankly, Shelley did a terrific job of getting the Aurora Sesquicentennial tattoo together in about 5 weeks. So that can be done. But the other point is it's also the 100th anniversary of Vimy Ridge. And I think that's relevant to the discussions that we're having around this. So I would encourage council to keep that in mind. I will certainly take the comments back to the committee, but I won't do it with any joy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. I have Councillor Thompson and then Councillor Marakis to the amendment.
Thank you. Speaking to the amendment, I don't support it the way it's worded. When I was speaking with regards to the water feature, what I would have preferred to have seen is something along the lines whereby it's understood that a legacy feature would be incorporated into the Library Square discussions. What I'm saying is that it doesn't necessarily have to be a different park. We're focused on Library Square, so I'm just changing the focus to being a park to be determined later to Library Square. So that money comes out of the budget. We're already going to plan some sort of features within Library Square. So I would have liked to have seen a little bit more information associated with this amendment. As it stands now, it's just killing everything. And so I don't support it the way it's written.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. And Councillor Marakis to the amendment.
I was just going to ask, Mr. Chair, are we calling each one of the three separately?
I believe that's the case. I believe so.
Okay, thank you. That's all I want to ask.
You may, Councillor Thompson, for the second time. To the amendment. To the amendment, it's the second time. You're good to go.
I just want to get a clarification from the clerk. If we separate these and the motion is defeated, can we then submit another amendment, for example, with regards to any one of those particular features with a little bit more of a descriptor, like I was saying about on the understanding that it gets switched to Library Square?
Madam Clerk.
Or would it be a reconsideration?
I would say through Mr. Chair, I would say if the motion is different enough from the motion that's on the floor, we could vote it on it separately.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I have Councillor Kim to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in agreement with individualizing the different items so that we can all vote on them. I do appreciate Councillor Perry's concerns, and I too, it's kind of like the Olympics where you spend a lot of money on it, but once the party's over, you're left holding the bag with paying for everything. And we did know that there was going to be a potential sizable amount that we're going to be paying for, and knowing that, as Mayor Daw mentioned, we approved the Canada 150 committee, and they did a great job. They spent a lot of time on it, and I would hate to waste all their efforts and their recommendations. But at the same time, I think that there are some overlaps that we can, as Councillor Marakis mentioned, that we could just strengthen the existing activities that we have planned. I'm fine with the military tattoo. I do. However, the marketing budget, whether you spend $2,000 or $20,000 on marketing, on a town our size, I think people will know that there is an event happening, and I think there is room to cut there. But I'm for the military tattoo. I've talked to a lot of people with regards to Vimy Ridge, as Mayor Daw mentioned, and that's a significant event, an anniversary, and so I'm all for the military tattoo, but there are a couple of items there that I would like to vote on to extricate. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Kim. I have Councillor Humphreys to the amendment.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. Just to the amendment, I'm okay with voting separately. I guess to some of the comments I heard earlier, and this was my concern initially, is worrying about putting this committee together and us doing just this. And I think at the time I didn't want to have a committee before budget was approved. So I just want to make sure that when we deliver the message back, however this outcome is done, that we need to let the committee know that we're supportive of their ideas again. They're brilliant. We appreciate them and their time, and we'll support them moving forward. But there was this discussion initially, and the committee was struck, and the majority of council rules. So when this goes back to them, I really need to make sure that that's clarified to the individuals. I don't want them to feel for a moment that their time was wasted. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. I guess my only comments to the amendment is that, similar to other members of council, obviously disappointed with the amount the federal government granted to us, although happy for anything, quite frankly. And certainly very appreciative of the work that the committee has done in bringing these ideas forward and such. My only comment would be to the amendment is that I think the sense I've gotten around the table is that we'd all like to maybe, enhance some of the events we already do to acknowledge the 150th anniversary of Canada. And I think that's a really great idea, or set of ideas, incorporating maybe more military tattoo into the Canada Day parade, perhaps. I mean, that to me makes a lot of sense, or, increasing fireworks for Canada Day, or whatever, enhancing current town events to make them better. But I do think that we owe the committee, if we are going to go back to them with, we're going to get back to them with the 20,000 from the feds, and the 8,500 from State Farm and Rotary for the other event. I think we have to give them clear direction on perhaps what amount of money council is going to put forward to them, and with a direction as to, okay, so we're not into the military tattoo, the marketing budget as it is, and the water feature, and that's going to be maybe reallocated to Library Square. We have to give them some direction. So here's, I don't know what the number would be, whatever we're comfortable with. I'll throw a number out there, 30, just for discussion. And here's the direction that we're going to give you. I just think we owe that to them. And obviously, if we pass the amendment as it is and then do nothing afterwards, there will be no direction. So I'm kind of torn as to whether or not I support the amendment without anything further to give them. Obviously, we can do that after the amendment's voted on. So those are my comments as of right now, but I have Mayor Daw for a second time to the amendment. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize, I just remembered this, but one of the terms of applying for grant funding is you cannot apply for grants to enhance current activities. So we could not apply for a grant, as an example, to spiff up the Canada Day fireworks or to do something else like that. And by the way, you couldn't apply for anything. There's a blackout period, I think, from second last week in June to the first week in July. You can't apply for anything. So there's specific items, doing things like that were precluded from your ability to apply for a grant. So that's why we went with totally separate items. So and I apologize, I should have brought that up earlier.
Thank you, and I do remember that the criteria for the grants changed midstream as we had a change in federal government. So, we'll call them separately. I guess my only point was, the committee's done great work. We have to give them something. So if we're not comfortable moving forward with the tattoo, the report even says it might not even be possible time-wise anyways. And if, we're going to move forward afterwards with the water feature being incorporated to Library Square, and maybe the marketing budget could just be as part of our regular marketing budget approved, I just think we need to provide direction. So I guess I'll call the vote on the amendment and the 3 items separately. So we'll vote first. There's 4? We haven't added the fireworks. I think we'll maybe vote on these 3, and then if there needs to be that amendment to that, we can do it after. So I'll call then the vote on the military tattoo, and that is for its removal from the budget. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So the next one, oh, sorry, that's defeated. My apologies. I'm getting used to saying it's carried. The second one is the Canada 150 park naming and water feature for it to be removed from the budget. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And the last is the Canada 150 marketing budget to be removed. All those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. And we're back to the main motion. Can we break during the motion? We have to have a health and safety break, I'm being told. A quick amendment on the floor. Should we finish this item before we take a break, Sam, or is that it? So let's finish this item. I think we should get through it. So, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson.
Just following up on the discussions of water feature, I'd like to just move forward an amendment that a Canada 150 legacy feature be incorporated into the discussions on Library Square.
Seconded by Councillor Marakis. Is there any comments or questions to this item? All those in favor? Opposed? The amendment carries. Back to the main motion. So the main motion now, just so we're all clear, military tattoo is still in. The water feature has been moved to the Library Square project, and the marketing budget's still there. So where do we want to go from here? Any more comments? I actually got Harold Kim for the first time to the main motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Family First Night fireworks wasn't mentioned, but I'd like to put an amendment to have that item voted on as well. Given that we already have fireworks happening, I don't know why we would have another one.
So your amendment is to have the Family First fireworks display removed from the budget?
Yes.
Is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Abel. Comments or questions to the amendment? Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would have thought, like most municipalities, we would have had the first night on December 31st. That's when everyone celebrated the 150th year. Why we're doing it as the very last thing, to me, is different, unique, but I would rather use those fundings for fireworks at Canada Day, so I am in favor of removing that.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Are there more comments to this item? Councillor Marakis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I was just going to echo your comments. I think you're dead on, is that we need, instead of removing it, I hear a lot of a conversation that I just don't want to do this, but I don't mind spending that money. And so I think that maybe it's better if we all look around and say, listen, let's set that budget number. And then, when the committee gets back together, they can take some of the comments that we put around and they say, okay, this is what we have. Council didn't really necessarily like this. Maybe we'll do this instead. And so I think that's probably a better approach for us, instead of just removing everything that we don't necessarily want, but yet we still want to spend that money. So I think there's a better approach that we can do this. I'm not sure what would be the best way to do it, but I'll leave that in your capable hands, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Marakis. We will deal with the amendment that's on the floor. I have Councillor Gardner and then Councillor Peary to the amendment.
It's not on the screen, but my understanding is that we're taking the Family First Night fireworks display out, and we're not saying anything about potentially enhancing the Canada Day fireworks. We're just voting on taking it out at this point in time.
I believe the amendment was to take it out of the budget.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. I have Councillor Peary next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fireworks in the winter are very beautiful, so I will be supporting this, or I'll be voting against this. So, thank you.
Any more speakers to the amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. So that is so hold on a second. Oh, Mayor Dodd. Sorry.
It's a challenge to get used to the system, I understand that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a long discussion. I'll just point out that the Canada 150 committee meetings are indeed open to everyone, and the concept was to finish the year with a bang, so I will not support removing it from the budget.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Any more comments to the amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. That is to remove the fireworks from the budget. All those in favor? Opposed? That's defeated. Back to the main motion. As amended, I believe I have Mayor Daw and then Councillor Abel and then Councillor Gardner for a second time. This is going way back here, guys. So, no?
Just confirm
So, can we confirm what's on right now?
So right now we are, through you, Mr. Chair, so right now we are discussing the main motion as amended. So the first amendment was to remove the Canada 150 park naming and water feature. The second amendment was to incorporate the water feature into the Library Square project. And that is currently all the amendments to the main motion.
So,
yes, clause 2 will be fixed to reflect the amendments.
so what's on the screen right now with respect to all the amendments is what should be there, with the exception of the fact that it's 87 instead of 62?
Correct.
Okay. You asked to call the question?
Yes.
Motion is seconded, and that's non-debatable, right? So, we'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion as amended? Opposed? Carries. And I think now would be a good time to take our health and safety break. I have Tom Marakis moving it, seconded by anyone. Councillor Gardner. All those in favor? Opposed? 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Everyone back to the table if I can. Okay, the motion to resume, please. Motion moved by Councillor Marakis, seconded by Councillor Gardner. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, so we're on to item R2. Can I have someone put that on the floor, please? Moved by Mayor Daw, seconded by Councillor Marakis. Comments to R2? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Moving to R3. Could I have someone move R3? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Marakis. Do I have any comments or questions on that item? Seeing... Oops. R2. No, we didn't. R1. Sorry, R2 we just voted. R3. There we go. He's keeping me in line. We're on R3 now, Councillor Gardner. The mowers. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So now we're moving over to R6. Will anyone put that on the floor? Moved by Councillor Marakis. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Humphreys. Comments to this item? I have Councillor Marakis, Councillor Abel. Councillor Marakis.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, if we left everything currently the way it is instead of looking to make the change that's being recommended in this report, we know that when we've heard that there's a need for change rooms to keep that semi-pro team within the town, how much would that those change rooms cost to be built over at Shepherd's Bush?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe a cost estimate was given to you by IES Department, and it was in excess of $1 million. 1.2 seems to ring a bell, but somewhere in there.
Councillor Marakis?
Thank you, Mr. Downey. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so, you know, when I look at this, when you go through it, you see that we're able to do this. It makes financial sense. It also allows Aurora Youth Soccer to keep their semi-pro team because we understand that without those change rooms, the league would not allow them to keep that team. And also, I think it's a benefit to this town because it puts the semi-pro team in, and I'll use the words of Jimmy Brennan, in a world-class facility that we in essence, we could have here because we're going to have all these different sports in this one location. We have our Sports Hall of Fame. You know, we talk about having tourism, making destinations within our town, and I think this is an area when it comes to sports that could become that main attraction destination. And then also with the hotel coming just down the street, it's not that far off. I think it's a better situated, better suited place for the soccer and the semi-pro team to be when they have people coming from out of town. So I'm in full support of this. I'm glad to see that the numbers work, and at the end of the day, it does make financial sense. So I'm all for it, and I can't wait to see it come to reality.
Thank you, Councillor Marakis. I have Councillor Abel, then Councillor Gardner. Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The other teams that we had originally put that field for, through you, Mr. Chair, was for all the sports. It was supposed to be a multi-purpose. And I understand that there are still some opportunities for that to be shared. But Sport Aurora, were they consulted, and what are their comments about moving to the other location?
Is that for Mr. Downey?
I would ask the chair to decide that.
Mr. Downey, do you have any comments on that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we contact the other fields, or the other users of the field would be primarily rugby, field lacrosse, football, and yes, we contacted those three groups, and they have no objection to the multi-purpose field being placed at Shepherd's Bush as opposed to Stuart Burnett, as long as it's a multi-purpose field.
Councillor Abel.
And so, thank you, Mr. Chair. And so we do share a field at St. Max currently. So some of those sports teams are currently using that facility that we. Was there any thought to the plan of what we're doing with the 11 acres at the Hallmark?
Mr. Downey, do you have an answer for that?
Through Mr. Chair, with regards to Hallmark, I've asked the staff to prepare some facility fits for that piece of land to find out just on a conceptual basis what facilities could fit on there. We are looking at it would be able to accommodate a ball diamond, and I think it's 2 soccer fields or 3 senior soccer pitches, but we have not made any determination or presentation with regards to what facilities we are recommending putting there. I just wanted some idea of what we could be looking at.
Councillor Abel.
Just 2 more questions. There are no concerns with the conservation of what we're doing to expand that pad or footprint for the multi-purpose field at Shepherd's Bush?
Mr. Downey, do you have any comments on that? It's the Ontario Heritage Trust, I think, right?
The owners of Shepherd's Bush are the Ontario Heritage Trust, and they lease the land then to the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority, who then sublease the land to the town of Aurora. We have been in communications with both the Ontario Heritage Trust and the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority. They have verbally said there's no objection, but we would have to put an application into them. We have not done that as of to date until we have some council approval with regards to that, but their initial reaction to our request was they didn't see that there was going to be an issue, but of course they wanted to see exactly what those plans were going to look like.
Councillor Abel?
Thank you very much. And the reason I'm asking these questions is that we're not going to be putting money into Shepherd's Bush when we had another plan for the 11 acres at Hallmark and then realize, oh, we should have maybe considered putting in that investment there for multi-purpose and just done the turf at Shepherd's Bush. In any rate, I'm very pleased to see something of this magnitude being put at our SARC facility at the Stuart Burnett Field. So I'm in support of it, and yeah, for all the reasons that were mentioned, it's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. I have Councillor Gardner, then Mayor Daw, and Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner.
My questions have been answered. Thank
you, Councillor Gardner. Mayor Daw?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Downey, if I may. Two questions, Mr. Downey. The first one, and I may not have been as clear as necessary to Mr. Brennan, but is this field going to be dedicated for soccer only? The field at the SARC.
Mr. Downey?
Through Mr. Chair, the field at the SARC would be dedicated to soccer only, not necessarily to the Royal Youth Soccer Club, but it would be dedicated for soccer, just as Shepherd's Bush Field is presently. It can be used for other groups. We do put field lacrosse on it and things like that, but it's primarily built in order to accommodate soccer.
Mayor Daw?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Downey. That answers my second, third, and fourth questions too, so I appreciate your foresight. Would we be able to use it as an example during the day? So the arrangement that was referred to, I think Councillor Abel referred to with the school board at St. Max, is that something we may be able to go out to one of the schools and say, you know, we've got some capability here during the day and perhaps garner some revenue out of that as an option?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we are working with our partners, our field use partners, in order to try to maximize our use on all of these facilities. St. Max is actually, well, the soccer club, the semi-pro team is actually moving to St. Max next year while we're under construction at Shepherd's Bush, in order to accommodate their primary needs, which is not only a field, but the use of change rooms. So we will not be looking at putting trailers again at Shepherd's Bush this year. They are going to be moving the entire operation over to St. Max. But it's only on a temporary basis until their new home is built at the SARC.
Mayor Daw?
Thank you. I think it's a great idea, and I absolutely support it.
Thank you, Mayor Daw. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of my questions have been answered, but just, I guess, to clarify through you to Mr. Downey, you know, essentially, you know, Council had already approved the construction of a multi-purpose field, and at that time, out came the idea of the possibility of switching the two fields in order to accommodate some other requests that were being made. But in terms of the usage, the field at Shepherd's Bush, that, you know, the use that was going on there is really just going to become the use that it's going to happen at the SARC. I mean, we're not really changing future uses to what we originally contemplated. It's just now happening at the two different locations have switched. Is that a fair summation?
Mr. Downey?
To you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that's a fair summation. The beauty of it is, with the building of a multi-purpose field, we're now providing additional opportunities for football, rugby, field lacrosse, and any other users of a artificial turf field.
Mr. Thompson?
Great. I'm certainly supportive of it. I think this is a great example of us working with our community partners to find solutions that not only meet our needs, but theirs as well.
Thank you very much. Committee, is there any more comments to this item? Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It seems to make sense, financially, and the way that all the needs seem to complement each other from one site to another. Just a reminder, just a refresher through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Downey. The 2.7 approved budget for a dedicated soccer field. What's the biggest component of the soccer field? Because it just seems, I guess, just to a layperson who doesn't understand what goes into creating a soccer field. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of residents who are going to be asking, what are the one or two big components of the 1.9 million funding required for a dedicated field?
Mr. Downey?
To you, Mr. Chair. The field itself, if you just set that field apart from everything else, you're looking at about $1 million. It's for the turf and the lights and everything else. It's almost another $1 million in order to grade and service that property. A lot of earthwork needs to take place at Stewart Burnett in order to make this happen. So it's about half of that is servicing and grading, and the other half is the construction of the field itself.
Councillor Kim? Thank you very much, and I'll be supporting this as well. And if there's no other comments, I'll call the vote. Oh, Mr. Downey, would you like to make a further comment before we vote on this?
If I might, I want to give council some assurances that once this is approved, we will now be approaching Ontario Heritage Trust and the Conservation Authority. If we're finding there is any objection on that end, we will be then reporting back to council with that and asking for further direction as to how we wish to proceed. I just wanted to make sure, give council comfort that that's the next step in this whole process, because if we don't get a yes on Shepherd's Bush, then we need to reconsider this entire thing.
Do you have an idea of when that would
We'll
come
start
forward?
tomorrow. We've already started initial conversations, but now we can now commence in earnest with submission of drawings. Once council gives its final approval next week, then we can actually submit it with council approval.
Okay. Councillor Marakis?
Thank you,
Second time?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just quickly want to say, and with having those conversations with Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, our mayor is the chair, so I think we can maybe hopefully have him put in some good words with the Conservation Authority and make sure that we can get this done. So, thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you, Councillor. I'll call the vote then. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So that completes the items for this evening. We'll move to new business. I'm going to start with Councillor Peary. Councillor Kim? Mayor Daw? Councillor Humphreys? Councillor Abel? Councillor Thompson?
With a little leeway, I'll since we didn't have a chance to talk about some things last week, I just wanted to make mention under new business that the Aurora is still being mentioned when it comes to OMB reform. For those who may not know, recently Councillor Marakis was on the agenda with Steve Paikin talking about OMB reform, as well as being quoted in the Star, which ran a 3-part article. And so I think that we continue to raise the issue and shed a little light on Aurora and the struggles and challenges we've had in the past. So I just wanted to give congratulations to Councillor Marakis for continuing to stand to the forefront.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner, do you have any new business?
Thank you. It's pretty old, but as
new business?
considering 2 weeks running, I wasn't able to discuss it. I just wanted to say that I attended the Aurora Historical Society's AGM and would like to congratulate the Historical Society on a very impressive 2016. And also like to add that the exhibitions that they mount take a tremendous amount of planning and effort, and they really encourage the community to come out and see them. So I am trying to spread that word. Also, a few weeks ago, Aurora was contacted by the organizers of the York Region Pride parade to ask if Aurora could host that parade this year. We weren't able to give them that commitment, but I would like to think going forward how we could show our support and help them to promote the events of Pride Week, which I believe are in June. So I'm going to be bringing a notice of motion forward just with respect to promoting all diversity in our community. Following on Councillor Humphreys presented to us the motion from the City of Toronto. But, you know, how can we as a community support all the various diverse aspects of our community and promote them?
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Councillor Maracus, you have a new business item? Come on. No, go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that great introduction. I do have one, but first, just thank you, Councillor Thompson. The work that the working group and the work that yourself and all of us in combination is what has put Aurora at the forefront with this issue. So, but thank you for the kind words. I did want to ask. I noticed on the websites and in social media that actually Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority is looking at making adjustments or doing some new things within Shepherd's Bush, and they're asking for some input. And I'm just wondering, maybe through you to the chair, if we would be getting any information, considering that Shepherd's Bush is within our municipality. I'd like to think that maybe we could have a little bit more of a contributing factor in what happens within Shepherd's Bush.
Mayor Dodd, do you have any info offhand on that, or can you get back to council on that? He'll get back.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it. Thank
Wonderful.
you. Yeah.
We have more, though. I have Councillor Gardner and then Councillor Thompson with additional pieces of new business. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm really not sure who to ask this to, so I'll address it to Mr. Nadarozny. There was a motion that went through council from Councillor Humphreys about more appropriate signage for the cultural centre, and I'm trying to remember if I'm not sure who on staff I would be asking. So I think we approved that in budget, and I would just like to have a follow-up. Now that I'm sitting on that committee, I would like to be able to tell them if and when they can expect the signage.
Mr. Nadarozny, is that something we can follow up with?
Certainly.
Councillor Thompson, back to you.
Thank you. I just have a question for Ms. Van Leeuwen. Earlier today, we had an email regarding Our Lady of Grace Elementary School and the signage. Could you just sort of provide some context for myself? I know in conversation with some other councillors, there was a little bit of confusion around those signs.
Ms. Van Leeuwen.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe it's a pilot program that is being led through IES and our traffic analyst. The school, it's my understanding that the school has reached out to us and requested that we run this pilot program for a period of time to improve safety of children crossing the street. So it's an alternative plan. But I just found out about this today, so I have sent an email to our traffic analyst to get some more information. I'd be happy to provide council with an overview when I have that information.
Councillor Thompson?
So it's your belief that it was at the request of the school and not necessarily initiated by us, but in a response to their request?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's my understanding at this point in time. I don't recall it being discussed at this table.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Abel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for coming back to me. I just was when the sign laws were brought up and through you, I'm getting reports from businesses that A-frame signs are not allowed anymore.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that is correct. We passed the revised amended sign bylaw about a year ago now, and A-frame signs are not permitted under our sign bylaw.
Councillor Abel?
So you're now going to the businesses and having them removed. So we'll be a town without any A-frame sign bylaws or signs.
Ms. Van Loon?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. We are right now doing an educational promotion of the sign bylaw. So we're attending businesses, advising them, providing them with information, giving them time to respond. We did permit other types of temporary signs in the bylaw that require permits, but they're temporary in nature, like feather banner signs, which previously were not regulated, but the A-frame signs are not permitted under the bylaw.
Councillor Abel?
Thank you. I guess we should, I don't know that the business community is going to adjust to that immediately, so that I'm getting some feedback from businesses on that. It's not favorable. So I guess what I'll probably do is keep in touch with the chamber and see what their reaction is, and then we'll visit it at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abel. Seeing no more items for new business, we'll move to closed session, which we don't have. So we'll move to adjournment. How about that? Someone want to move that? Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Marakis. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries.